پنو رو شوهارا او یک رنقا ستیانش را دو پنو رو شوهارا او یک رنقا ستیانش را دو پنو رو شوهارا او یک رنقا ستیانش را دو پنو رو شوهارا
أترمغ بشلام الله هون كمسبايلا وديو لخمسة بمي 3000 إسري معناه يومانا دا جلد بارنا حاجات إذا براشنا إن خك من دين آتيكر بياشنا هالدقتيوة كماشنا ما نوار لا تبالي بعد أنا يا أخي همزميات كناش جو خويتي همزمينا دانا بتاعي خمندي متر متويد بخش بغزايد كما بدواقي لمن دو خبرت أوي ما بيشلتونيا وديوز هر أي مسألة كخرجت وديو أطرق مغب أخنا خرج بن وزيخ لقاتو أخون خمشاشنا كما دي ما أوديوله البته خابي ميبي تبا أخون دي خمش بيرخي يوم البلاخ يوم تأخر زمليدان بدايتهم بلاخ كل الدنيا حكماننا إن خطية مع الزوج بالخانة عارفين كأني حكمان إن شخلاف ما إن أطربنا إن كل يوم دي بعدنا إنه نشخارة دو أطرب وبلاخ اللي كانت بالخانة كبداية ريفولوشن بريش كان بريش قوة منهم ديانة كدناشي شلوشنا وحكم من بليلة شولش ربيلة كرخانة مكلية كبداية بلاخ همشان مويدل وينا قلبوته بيتلا كنانتي وكاتي بالخانة أخنا يوم رويتتون خرزة لمسنا يوم برخخ لينا تفولر وذا جدا يرخد مي كل الدنيا يومان فيش كيوم فلاخنا يوم تد أوتوريت ديان أتخ يومان لتلان كامو أطر لتلان أطر لتلوخ ميل بايا متايل كاتو خزداجة كات أنا دكان لا دوكت يومان دوكت يوم فلاخ ده يوم شلون فيشنا برخنا بسرقة نخراية بريشيت يوم فلاخ تكلت خايما أتديانا بتاع المدري كتن يومان دوك أخلون سبخنا من بلتت أوتر مشتايل بصرة ومشيخة يومان خديرة وخدشنا قديان سام زودا بنراتوته بقتل برامنا خبنيزنا تنقل كدو كخله بخادو تري يدا قري داسك أو كريستيان خايما صار السلطة كلها تمدري كتمسخ ماطا قدونيشة قديشة أبينا أتديانا همزة توديو كتانا وكتاو ما تيومن خمشاشن كما ديلا إنك ما سبايلا كدناش أنا خرز خمويلة برضمت متويلة بغضايت كت قدنا خمشاشن كما ديا كت يقرأ بروفيسور هانيبال ترافيس همزة مياتهم زميلة كت وديو بتاع أرخديني تيبي الفيديو خمشاشن كما ديلا إن الشبت بتاعي أنا الشبت بتاعي دعوني أرخد ديني تصوير إيران صاد خبر كتر من مكان نورك بابايان فم زمین مدره. أخشي بيني مغزينه خمشاشين كتر هم زمین ودو تخلي كما تفاوض وادره من ده هم زمین كتر أصلا شو مخب من دو كيف هم يتعب. خام أخبار تخيت زتلياتو مغربي إلى تلوشت بتاعنا تريب يرخد تلوشت تريب يرخد هديك خاطر فمن تشييته. مكان رامان أمير خاص بتاعنا هوست كاتو تكبران ديوله بتهمزمني بتخيوتة رابي جريس مديو أودياتو كات بيترتك بدبرانت دشانت أطراي جو إيران جو أبادان وجتيران رابي جريس أتناسوس ما يسري خال يسري شوفا ان خدي بدي من الزوز انا كنت كرام بديو بده بديو بهم زمني بس لوش بلا ما تجون صوت اسرى برمشه كبارس تي في كنت اوديو بيرا شوي الى لوش بتاعي الى خيوتو وديو كان سبايلا انت ناشر تدخل يعني اينا ودي هم زوم انا اينا تشييتك التانوية اهله تشييت الفرسوف التانوية كما بديو هم زوم يومان الشعبية كانوا بينا ايران كوم تبي انا تشالوش قدام دان كورونا قدام كان كنت اخذين لنا مصياتي في استوديو خيك من خرز براشيوغ من داور ما تويوغ كد يخون ابي حسناي هم زيتي هم اخنا كان استوديو را ولا باخ البتانا يوم رويتا بتاوي خامزمت من دكتور سمي بس كورونا لا كد اديك قدا اطر دكان بتاعنا بازار بتاعنا مت كم سوادان كد كان راحت خمخله صاخ خمخله بسلامته كبداين انا برك مخبرياتي كتب المتن تاسخين همزمت ميكرو نوري ببايان من بروفيسور ترافيس شميتم له خمشاشن كم ديلا دوز مغدا مي بياخذ مي خب ياخذ ودي خمسه بياخذ من نشميم لا كنت مشبت سام تريب شميتم له كنت تيتم متخبرانا قدنا خمشاشن داور وينا اديزه مودي شغله بقاو ليلتي هذا مويدال كما مخبريات الشماخن تاتا مويدال هذا بيت الشماخ هم زميات ميكرو نوريك من بروفيسور ترافيس هم زمياتو مترانا كاتا كلهم تاطر باسي برا يعني خرجت اوديو بايمتانو وقت مقداي يوم كل الدنيا ناشكه يوم البلاخ بيكونا خادوتا بعدنا يعني ناراتوتا باير بداكنا مخا اطرا اخنا غاتوراي هيش خادن ليله بيتقدم خيوم خادوتا اطرن دوكا بشمت اطرن دوكا همش ناراتيات وخمش جبلاشا جو برمو قطلوا خبني ساخش كدوكا يوم خادوتا لك يعني ريشيت اطراي إن من يشتمو أسرة من قمشي قد آتم بالله يومان قد احنا بتخاريخ يومان خشاننا يومان راو الناراتنا يومان قد احنا كدهم بديه تخمون باق هالمط يعني مدري خا مدي خينا بيشن خا خزاقي خينا بيشن لاتيني كبداين خايم بخلت على عبينا خا خيلة عبينا خا أطرة عبينا خا دكتا قد أومت خيلوت كيانا دوكخلا بخادوتا مقودي يوم تم علي بأربيشنا من بلد سايغان كانت كومونيست تشكيلالهم من ميدة هوشمين فيتنام أو يوم خادوته با ودي قدني خادوته لا يوم بلاغة قدنا قالبوته بعد الناشد مارزيز وكرخنانه سا كل يوم نشان قد أطرت له من ديانت أطرك أتوبوزو دا إن أنقاية كخادوته دوكتم هم زمت أوديو قد ميكر نوري بابايان بابا هم زمبر من ميكر هانيبال ترافيس بد مغزك هون كامود يخنان داخل حقويتنا بشيل شكلتا من أطروات بريشة كأطرايا حقويتا لاوي مخا كراسيانا كاتن حقويتا بيامنا مخا أطرايا حقويتا لتلن قدنيو هم زمتي إلى جدا انترفيو كتا دي كاتوهم المتنة ميكرا نوري بدبابا كاتوخن حقيلة انترفيو فيديو من ميكرا هانيبال ترافيس إن بس مرخون سباي شميوم من توهم تننا على خرزة جيش كاخ ميداله. بروفيسور لا قانوني له يقرأ هانيبال ترافيس أطراي ديان اللي كتير معروف بكل الدنيا بكل بشيء في ستيت فلوريدا خان تريتو داخل ميداله بوزت تريتو بميقرأ نوري بدبابة كتا همزمت داخل يوم أوديو هالساعة أربع بركة أوترا بتبش موزيتا جو يوتيوب برادر يومان خين زي كم سيدنا في فيسبوك خازيتم كنا يبغى قبل بشينا كم يقرأ هانيبال ترافيس. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Welcome to our program. We are glad to have you. After trying 3 times, finally tried 3 this charm.
Yes, thanks. We got all the technical issues ironed out.
Yeah. So now I'm here with Mr. Nori Bidbaba.
Hello, Professor Travis. How are you?
Good, Mr. Bedbaba.
Nice to have you on board.
Thank you.
So I'm going to let you guys sit together, talk together, and I'll be in and out sometime. So, but the main interview will be, your host is Mr. Nore, and we go from there.
Thank you for having you, Mr. Travis. It's an honor to have you here. I know by interviewing you today, Assyrian will learn a lot. But before we go to our interview, I would like to see what do you do for a living, what do you teach, and which university do you teach? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I teach primarily business law, entertainment law, copyright, trademark, patent, internet law, antitrust or competition law, and issues like privacy, cybersecurity, stuff like that. And I work at a place called Florida International University, which is Miami's public university. It is sort of like the University of California at Irvine, but it's more like the University of Florida at Miami, but they didn't let us have that name.
Very nice. Thank you so much. I think I should start with my questions because we have a limited time. So I'm going to, if you permit me, I'm going to start with my first question, which it's very important to me when I read the Jazz magazine. You have mentioned in your article 2013 in Jazz magazine, Representative Christopher Smith drafted a resolution to condemn attacking on religious minority in Iraq. 73 co-responded in Congress, but it died in House Foreign Affairs. Can you tell us why?
That is not really information that I have. So the JAS article, or Journal of Assyrian Academic Studies, which I sit on the board of, was about some of these draft resolutions that were aimed at the Assyrian crisis, new Assyrian genocide, really, which people were made aware of, even from 2004, that Assyrians were being targeted for no other reason than their religion, their ethnicity, and maybe their language. There were a variety of resolutions proposed in Congress. One of them I thought would have been helpful by Representative Smith. It had a lot of co-sponsors, but in the House of Representatives, you need to get through one and sometimes two committees to make it into legislation. And then after the House passes the legislation, then the Senate will weigh in. They're oftentimes more conservative or more risk averse than the House. So then it goes to conference committee. Then they would have to negotiate the final language. You may recall the continuing resolution or Crumnibus bill of last year was an example of that. But it could not even make it out of committee. Why? I can speculate 3 or 4 reasons. One of which is there are Republicans on the committee who don't want the war in Iraq to look bad. They want to declare a success because the surge worked, which they supported and their party supported. John McCain, their candidate for president in 2008, supported. So they want to say the surge worked, the country was secured, and there's nothing more to worry about. There's nothing to see here. Everybody go home. Secondly, there are those who do not want to antagonize the supporters of the people who are persecuting the Assyrians in Iraq. So who are these supporters? Well, a lot of the money, it's publicly known, is coming from Saudi Arabia. The people are crossing through perhaps Turkey, maybe other places, and the whole enterprise is being supported rhetorically on different Arab satellite channels based in Qatar and other places. So if you draw attention to this problem, it leads to the question, who is responsible? And I think maybe some people in Congress don't want to ask that question.
Thank you very much. And also in conclusion of your articles, you mentioned that United States and European Parliament suggested Assyrians in Iraq are at risk and they will be disappear in our lifetime. My question to you is, what should the Syrians do not to let this happen?
I don't know what they can do to prevent their disappearance in Iraq. I think it may be too late for that place. I do not think it is safe for people to live there anymore who are not Arabs or Kurds. Perhaps if people live in Erbil or the other side of Erbil, it might be okay. But any place to the west of Erbil and north of Baghdad or north of even Basra is too dangerous, I think, for Christians to live in at this point in time. The time really to pass one of these resolutions was in 2004 when people started speaking of the Assyrian genocide being renewed, people fleeing church bombings. In 2006 or 2007 when Samantha Power, who is now the U.S. ambassador to the UN, spoke of religious genocide in Iraq, people targeting other people based solely upon their religion. Also in 2007, the president of Iraq, Talabani, prime minister of Iraq, al-Maliki, spoke of a genocide carried out, by these insurgents and rebels and foreign fighters. So that was really the time to secure the country, maybe establish Assyrian police forces or integrate them into the Peshmerga or into the Iraqi army or whatever. Now I think it's too late for that. I would support giving Assyrians refugee status in other countries.
Professor Travis, since 2003, Christian and a lot of Assyrians, they flee Middle East, mostly Iraq, and now, as you see, Syria. There is suggestion that, and I would like to see what you think about it, the Assyrians should establish a government in exile to be introduced to the international community, international nations. If so, how can that be done?
There is a discussion of having a sort of an Assyrian parliament in exile, or some kind of a representative body where diaspora populations could send representatives to a meeting of some kind, or an elected body. There is a similar organization that will be launching soon. There are organizations of a similar type with names like the World Jewish Congress or the Armenian National Committee of America, or a variety of organizations, African National Congress, or different congresses before they actually became the government. Now, this is not going to be like those other groups, because some of these groups actually became the government. In Israel, it may be in Armenia, in Kurdistan, so-called, in South Africa, in India. I don't think that's going to happen in this case, but still it could be valuable to have a body that is like an NGO or a virtual parliament that could vote on resolutions of interest to the Assyrian diaspora and make their collective voice heard.
To establish a parliament is not easy. And we are spread all over the world. The Assyrians in the United States, they don't know many Assyrians in Sweden, for instance. And to establish this kind of parliament, it needs more information. What kind of information do you think they should have?
Well, there are contacts being developed across the European-American divide, or even the Middle Eastern European divide, and people are using technology and speaking about ways to form cooperative groups to study issues of concern and write letters or write reports. Already many reports are being written on a multinational basis. Atiya Gamri of the Netherlands is a parliamentarian who has visited Iraq many times, and along with the Assyria Council of Europe has published many reports on topics of interest to Assyrians in Iraq. So, that is a model of the kind of thing that could happen with more global cooperation, getting the North American Assyrians involved and the Assyrians in Asia involved and so forth. So I think as such ties are reinforced, it will eventually become possible.
Well, let's hope so. Last week, Honorable Yonatan Kenneth, who's representing Assyrian and Christian in Iraqi parliament, he mentioned something very interesting. He mentioned that there's, Assyrian, they like to have a safe haven in Nineveh Plain, Nineveh province. And if so, he was mentioning that there is between 25 to 35 billion barrels of oil underground. And if that's the case, that Assyria wants to have a safe haven in Nineveh province, Arabs, Turks, Kurds, and neighbor countries, and especially oil companies, have they let us this happen? Is it very unbelievable that they will let us Assyrian have a safe haven and have a control over that field? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. It is theoretically possible that the United Nations could build a safe haven, sort of like in the former Yugoslavia or other places where there's been peacekeepers. I don't think there's a lot of financial or political support for that at this time. Nobody wants to get involved. The Kurds will oppose the idea. They will say, that the Assyrians and Chaldeans are active within Kurdistan parliament and Kurdistan political movements, and that they can use the Kurdistan authorities for their protection and so forth and so on. So between other countries being apathetic, the Kurds opposing it, I don't think it's going to be successful.
But Assyrians are trying to get some kind of safe haven in that area, that in Nineveh Plain, and you don't think it's doable at this moment.
No, I've been
Am I right?
talking to people about this for more than 10 years, and it's gone nowhere. I mean, maybe they have some police more than they used to, but the security situation is obviously worse than it's ever been. So where is the improvement, or where is the success of this plan? I don't think anybody outside of Assyrian activists and maybe some parts of the Assyrian population really support it. I mean, for example, the Chaldean patriarch, I'm not sure he's really asking for that. He's more asking for some kind of United Nations protection. And he represents a lot of those people, whether you support him or not. Tel Keif and other places have a plurality of Chaldeans. So even within our own community or their own community, I'm not sure that it's universally supported. And certainly the Kurds and the Arabs are not going to be that enthusiastic about it.
You know that in Nineveh Plain, Nineveh province, we have two fronts, MPU and Vachnosha. They are trying to support some villages, and some Americans, some foreign countries are helping them. How do you think we can have them to unite, or have more people to join them? Is that possible?
I don't really know anything about that, about their advertising or their literature. I haven't seen any of it. I can't really speak to it.
Okay, since 2003, many things has been changed, especially last year that ISIS went to Mosul. All the Christians have left the country, and Assyrian name has come up quite a lot in media, newspapers, everything. Could that be a good reason for Assyrian to start claiming, for instance, to make some noises, to ask for their ethnicity, their homeland. Is there any possibility now that the world knows about Assyrian, that probably a couple of years ago we never heard of him in any place in the media, that could help him to be recognized more?
You know, I think that the Assyrians have always asked for their religion, their language, their homeland to be respected and recognized. I mean, whether you're talking about the time of Bedr Khan Bey, or whether you're talking about 1914 or 1918, you know, Agapetros, or at the Versailles Conference, at the Lausanne Conference, you know, the Patriarch writing to the United Nations when it began in 1945. You know, people asking Iraq to respect the Assyrians, the work of the Assyrian Universal Alliance, the work of Joseph Yaqub, the writer, his books, The Assyrian Question, and his dissertation, you know, things like Assyrian Star, Furqano Magazine, Journal of Assyrian Academic Studies. But so long before this war, you know, people have asked for recognition and the same rights as any other people. Unfortunately, Assyrians have been called a people without any rights. The Arabs have not only rights, but a great deal of solidarity in more than 10 countries. The Kurds have not only rights, but you know, 2 or 3 mini states, basically, you know, eastern Syria, northern Iraq, eastern Turkey, where they are mayors of, you know, more than 20 or 30 cities in eastern Turkey, and kind of have a mini government going there. But the Assyrians, on the other hand, do not have any rights. That when they ask the United Nations for resolutions protecting them, the United Nations always says no. When they ask Congress for resolutions recognizing their rights, Congress usually says no. So yes, there is more journalism about them because of the war, but and I noted this fact even in 2006, but I don't think that it's having the effect of actually causing there to be recognition of Assyrian rights and identity and the homeland.
Mr. Travis, how do you see Assyrian nation 10 years from now?
I think that there is a lot of assimilation that is going on to other countries. People are having to leave, you know, where they originally lived as indigenous people and try to make their life in Sweden or Germany or London or California or whatever. So, you know, people are becoming more similar to these Western countries and less similar to the Eastern countries that they were living in. The countries where they were living have become very unstable, violent, insecure. Nobody really wants to live there necessarily. If people could flee, many of them would do so. So I think there's going to be dissolving many of the bonds that kept the people together in their language and their religion. There's going to be, you know, people learning English, people learning German, people learning Sweden, and maybe their Swedish, and maybe their children, like me, although I'm only half Assyrian, not speaking the Assyrian language. So in 10 years, I think there will be more of that. Many people will still speak the language. They will teach it to their children. They will still live in their ancestral homes, but it'll be a lot smaller than it used to be. You know, people talk about in 1987 or 1988, maybe there were 1.4 million Assyrians, Chaldeans in Iraq. Maybe there were 70, 80,000 in Syria, and if you count all the Christians together in Syria, maybe 700,000. Now maybe there are 100,000 in Iraq and maybe 200,000 in Syria. Of course, in Turkey, we were originally almost 600,000. Now we're probably more, Assyrians and Chaldeans are more like 5 or 10,000. It depends if you count the ones from Iraq or not as part of that. So the population is very small compared to what it once was, while the population in California is much larger, in Sweden is much larger, in Germany it's larger than it's ever been. So that will be continuing in the next 10 years.
Do they have to work hard not to get disappeared from from this planet?
Yes, I mean, many people have predicted that Assyrians will disappear. I mean, the language is an endangered language. If you read books about endangered languages, sometimes they call it Northeastern Neo-Aramaic, which Sargon Donabed says is wrong because it's not really Aramaic. People argue about that, but it's an endangered language, whatever you want to call it, modern Assyrian or Neo-Aramaic or whatever you want to call it. The religion maybe is less in danger. Definitely the homeland has been destroyed. If you look at the churches of Mosul, Baghdad, Basra, Turkey, Al-Hasaka province, probably soon Al-Qamishli city, already Homs, already Aleppo. The Assyrian quarters of all those towns have been destroyed. So the language is in danger, the religion is maybe okay, and the homeland has been destroyed. So what can be done to reverse it? I don't think that political, activism is really going to fix the situation in those countries because, the greatest investment in post-war reconstruction in our history already took place in Iraq from 2004 to 2014, and we see that it didn't work. So how is a much smaller investment going to work now? I don't see it. We see that the government is becoming, very conservative and hostile to indigenous Christian identity in Turkey. We see very radical groups taking over in Syria, and actually all of the neighbors of Syria, except for Iraq, are basically supporting that. People are sneaking into the country from Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and destroying whole cities. So is political activism by Assyrians going to change that? Probably not. Can they produce scholarship and television and music and so forth that preserves the culture? Definitely so. And that's what people like you are doing.
Thank you. I have a last question to ask you. What would be your advice for Assyrian?
Which Assyrians?
Assyrian, Chaldean, Christian. How should they live? What they should do to stay alive?
I think that Michael Yuash is doing a good job. People should look to his leadership. He's gone to UN Human Rights Council and asked them on behalf of the Assyrian Aid Society to pass a resolution, condemning the Assyrian, new genocide or threatened genocide and asking for a right of return to people's homes. That would be a start, getting something like that passed. And if people live in an area where their member of parliament is not voting for that, they need to vote against that person and find someone else to run against them and vote for that person. And that's true whether they live in California or whether they live in Sweden. It doesn't matter. They can vote for people who promise to, advance the human rights of Assyrians, or really of all people, because these same problems affect multiple different groups. And there are some people in Congress and in European parliaments who care about it. Maybe Christopher Smith, maybe somebody else. People criticize him a lot today for corruption, but Rod Blagojevich supported something called the International Religious Freedom Act, which was aimed at persecution of Assyrians in Iraq and other places. Stuff like that is important to do. So I think calling for legislation like that could have an effect slowly, but it's not going to have the kind of immediate safe haven that some people, I think, are expecting.
Do you have any idea, it might be a little difficult, what's the population of Assyrian Chaldean around the world in total?
I think some people talk about, 2 or 3 million. I mean, if you say that there were originally 1.4 million in Iraq in 1984, which the census said, some people doubt it. Maybe some of those are Arabs. So Assyrians and Chaldeans maybe were 1 million. Since then, some of them should have had children. So maybe it's increased 10 or 20%. Plus, as I said, there were people living in Syria, Turkey, Iran, Russia, Armenia, Europe, and the USA and Australia. So if you add them all up, some people say 2 or 3 million. I think is reasonable. It's hard to say though. How do you define these people? Those who are half and half, those who also speak Arabic, those who identify as citizens of their country first. This is a problem that you see in the U.S. Census, defining what a person is. It's not always so easy. So it depends how you define the people, and so forth. It's the same problem we have with Native Americans. As a person who's 1/4 Native American, really Native American, for purposes of counting them, sometimes they count you if you're 1/16. So that increases the population a lot. So it depends how you count them.
We divided our name Assyrian, Chaldean, Suroyo. Do you agree with that, or you should just say just Assyrian or Chaldean or something? Has that caused any problem for Assyrian in general?
It does cause problems because at some points in history, the Chaldean and Syrian Orthodox side has made deals with the government to sort of deny the Assyrian name and promote, Arab and Turkish names for things. So, calling the Assyrians Syriacs is something that the Baathists and the Kemalists wanted to do, and it was accepted by some people who are Assyrians, but who are in their denomination Chaldean or Assyrian Orthodox, because they didn't support the religious beliefs of the Assyrian Church of the East, and they also didn't support the politics of Assyrians like Agapotros or Marshamun Binyamin or whoever. They didn't support their politics, so they didn't want their name. They thought that maybe they would be killed if they used that name, so they called themselves Syriacs, which makes it sound like they're just a religious denomination of Kurds or Turks or Arabs. So if there's just a religious minority of Arabs called Syriacs, Westerners don't really care so much as if there's actually an indigenous group who's being persecuted, kind of like you could compare to a Native American or an Aboriginal Australian or something like that. Or even a Crimean Tatar in Ukraine or Russia. If you think of them as a different ethnic group, sometimes people say, there could be a genocide against them. But if it's just a religious difference among Arabs, they say, well, it's a matter of freedom of expression or the country having an official religion, which we're going to stay out of. It's not really a matter of human rights or genocide. It's a matter of local religious law. So it has a damaging effect. It's factually wrong because, as the Chaldean and Syrian patriarchs have said, they are also Assyrian. The Chaldean patriarch Bidawid said this. The Syrian Orthodox patriarch said this during the Versailles and Lausanne peace conferences, talked about our Assyro-Chaldean nation needing to have rights. If you look at the history of Syrian Orthodox or Suryoye and Chaldeans, you see that they were originally Assyrians and they called themselves Otoroya or people of Atur or Ator. So they came out of Assyria. They were the patriarchs of Assyria. They claimed to lead Assyria. They are Assyrians. If you split them into Syriacs, people are going to think they're just a kind of Kurd and Arab, and they're not going to care about them.
Thank you so much, Professor Travis. If you come to Los Angeles, we like to interview you and see your lecture in person. But at this moment, I would like to say thank you so much for being with us. And hopefully we can have some more like these beautiful interviews, helpful interviews with you. If you have anything else to say, please go ahead and do so.
I'm good. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking to you again.
I will definitely do that. I have to prepare myself. I will do that. And for now, I want to say thank you so much for being with us. And, this broadcast goes all over the world, and all Assyrians will be watching this. And hopefully, if they have any question, I'll take it from them and bring them back to you.
All right, great. I look forward to that.
والعب على وتارك واعزف لي لحن تشوبي وحنن قلب محبوبي
واعزف لي تشوبي وحنن
قلب محبوبي محبوبي راح انقطع اخباره شد العود
والعب على وتاره محبوبي راح انقطعت اخباره
شد العود والعب على وتاره
وتاره